Selamat siang dan semangat pagi Bapak Ibu semua. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Saya Indriati dan saya akan menjadi moderator untuk sesi pertama, sesi presentasi pertama kita hari ini. Terima kasih sudah hadir dalam seminar ini, dan pada sesi kali ini kita akan mendengarkan presentasi dari seorang narasumber internasional yang tentunya ahli di bidangnya, dan saya yakin presentasi ini akan membuka wawasan kita lebih dalam lagi. Okay, so good morning, my name is Ingrid and I'm the moderator for this first session. Thank you for all being here today. And for this session, we will have a very special presentation lined up for you. Today, we are honored to have with us a distinguished keynote speaker who will be shedding light on the topic that is very crucial in today's educational landscape, the changing curriculum. Baik, sebelum kita mulai, saya akan memperkenalkan keynote speaker kita yang pertama, Profesor Ting Chao Li dari UNESCO Teacher Education Center, Shanghai Normal University. Beliau juga sebagai Deputy Secretary General of Shanghai Education Leadership Association, dan beliau sangat aktif dalam penelitian akademik, juga menjadi konsultan dalam penelitian dan pengambilan keputusan terkait kebijakan di bidang pendidikan. Dan pada hari ini beliau akan membawakan presentasi dengan judul Curriculum Reform in China, Concept, Practice, and Controversy. Jadi Bapak Ibu, dalam hal ini nanti kita akan melihat ya, kita kan sedang booming sekali perubahan kurikulum di negara kita, dan kita akan lihat bagaimana sih perubahan kurikulum di negara lainnya. Baik, tanpa berlama-lama lagi, mari kita sambut Profesor Li untuk mulai presentasinya. So without further ado, let's warmly welcome Profesor Li to the stage.
Thank you, Mrs. Ingrid. Dear professors, dear teachers, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm really pleased to be here. And the topic I'm sharing with you today is curriculum reform in China, concept, practice, and controversy. I'll discuss this topic in 5 aspects. Part 1, the background. China has the largest, biggest basic education system in this world. In 2023, the number of basic education students reached 229 million, more than the total population of 207 countries in the world. The number of kindergartens in China has reached 274,000, with 41 million children and 3 million full-time teachers. There are 195,000 compulsory education schools with 116 million students and 10.8 million full-time teachers. The total number of ordinary high schools in China reached 15,400, with about 28 million students and 2.2 million full-time teachers. China has a vast territory, and the level of education development varies greatly among different regions. Some schools in China are one of the best in the world. However, some are still in difficulties. This school is in the least developed region in China. There are more than 160 students in this class. Class 1, grade 1. This school is located in the most developed area in China. It is said that one primary minister of a country was moved to tears after visiting this school, because he felt that there was such a huge gap in the learning conditions of children in their own country. So, some teachers hold doctoral degrees from world-renowned universities. However, there are still many temporary head teachers in China who barely meet the minimum standards or even fail to meet the standards, about 1 million teachers. Therefore, summarizing China's curriculum reform is difficult. Nevertheless, we can gain some regular understanding from policy, academic discussions, and observation of practice changes. Part 2, formation of the double basic goal and the challenges. In the early days of the foundation of the People's Republic of China, over 80% of the population was illiterate. Many of them didn't even able to write their own names. The enrollment rate of primary school-aged children was only 20%. In this context, China has established a curriculum system centered on basic knowledge and basic skills, which is called double basic. At that historical stage, this curriculum system is conducive to ensuring the quality of school education and talent cultivation. After a long time period of effort, by the end of 2000, 85% of the population in China had received a 9-year compulsory education, and the illiteracy rate among young and middle-aged people had decreased to below 5%. However, with the development of society, the double basic curriculum system has correspondingly been challenged. From 1996 to 1998, the government of China commissioned the research group to conduct a large-scale sampling survey on the implementation status of compulsory education curriculum among 16,000 students and 2,005 principals nationwide. A survey of principals and teachers found that some most important basic qualities for teachers' lifelong development are as follows. The first, a sense of responsibility and morality. The second, physical and mental health. The third, innovative spirit. And the fourth, practice ability. And the fifth, value judgment skills. However, in the view of students, the most important goals that school education actually focuses on are basic knowledge and skills. In the picture, the left one, which have an overwhelming advantage over others. The favorite classroom teaching methods for students is to have more hands-on operation or hands-on practice, which can trigger more discussion. They do not like long-term teaching, do not like self-learning, and do not like a large amount of written homework. Unfortunately, the approach that students do not like is precisely widely adopted in practice. The double basic regards knowledge as the most important goal, but cannot transform knowledge into ability. In practice, the teaching objectives of the curriculum have become the pursuit of students' exam scores and the school's admission rate, and leads to students having high scores but low abilities. Part 3. The process and the content of the new curriculum reform. When China conducts large-scale reforms, it generally adopts a policy pilot strategy. First to try in some areas and accumulating experiences and then promoting it to more regions. In 2001, China launched a reform experiment in 38 pilot zones. In 2005, all students nationwide began accepting the new curriculum. The new curriculum reform includes 6 objectives. Firstly, the goal has shifted from imparting knowledge and skill to a 3-dimension goal, which includes knowledge and skills, process and methods, emotional attitude, and values. Secondly, the curriculum structure has shifted from emphasizing subject-centered centeredness to emphasizing student-centered learning patterns. The total class hours of the new course have decreased by 381, reducing the study time of academic courses and increasing the study time of moral education, comprehensive practical activities, as well as sports and health, art, and other courses. Thirdly, it has changed the situation where the courses content is too difficult and outdated, strengthen the connection between courses content and student life experiences, as well as modern society and technological development. Pay more attention to teachers' learning interests and experiences, and select essential basic knowledge and skills for lifelong learning. For example, Chinese language reduces the tedious training of grammar, logic, and other knowledge, emphasizes the education of humanistic spirit and the influence of excellent culture. History, mathematics. Chemistry has reduced the requirement for chemical calculation, such as equation balancing and the concentration calculations. As a result, the new course has significantly reduced difficulty. The new curriculum sets comprehensive practice activity courses as compulsory courses from primary school to high school, including research-based learning, community services, social practice, labor education. This is to get students to understand society, sub-society, and learn to research. Fourthly, in terms of teaching methods, change the current situation of overly emphasizing rote memorization and mechanical training, and advocate for active participation and experimentary learning of students. Fifthly, in terms of education evaluation, it is advocated to change the excessive emphasis on the screening and selection function of evaluation, and to give full play to the function of evaluation in promoting students' development, improving teachers, and improving teaching practices. Traditional education follows the logic of teaching, examination, selection, and elimination, which causes our education and students to pay heavy prices. Sixth, change the situation of overly centralized curriculum management system. Implement three-level curriculum management at the national, local, and school levels. Enhance the adaptability of the curriculum to different regions, different schools, and different students. Part 4. The ideological revolution of the new curriculum reform. Behind the new curriculum reform is an ideological revolution about knowledge, about learning, about students, and about teaching. Firstly, what is knowledge? Can knowledge be expressed in words? There is an important theory here, tacit knowledge. It can also be translated as implicit knowledge, corresponding to the concept of explicit knowledge. This theory was first proposed by the British philosopher Polanyi. He observed that people always know more knowledge than they can speak. Tacit knowledge refers to the beliefs, hypotheses, concepts, and so on. Taking the famous iceberg model as an example, explicit knowledge is the part of the iceberg above the sea level that people can observe, while tacit knowledge is the below the sea level. Chinese educator Dr. Shi Zhongyi, doctor and professor, has published the book Knowledge Transformation and Education Reform. This book pointed out that if tacit knowledge and scientific knowledge have inherent consistency, it can promote the learning of curriculum content, otherwise an opposite. If the two are opposite, it will interfere with people's learning of explicit knowledge. Therefore, tacit knowledge often affects our learning. Part of the reason for valuing the role of practical teaching in education reform is that tacit knowledge is generated in practice and is often inseparable from practical activities themselves. In the traditional master-apprentice system, there is a special emphasis on learning based on the observation and analysis of professional behavior of the master, which is a way of learning classic knowledge. Therefore, learning is not a process of external input, but a process in which students construct meaning and understanding independently based on their own classic knowledge. Learning is not only an external to internal process, but also an internal to external process, the latter being particularly important. Secondly, what's the meaning of children? Are children incomplete adults? One view is that children are the preparation of adults, and children are imperfect adults. Another viewpoint holds that children are a unique stage of life, a complete individual rather than an adult preparation. John Dewey believed that the change that will be brought about in our education is a shift in focus. This is a change. This is a revolution. This is the kind of revolution that Copernicus did when shifted the center of astronomy from the Earth to the Sun. Here, children became the sun, and all measures of education revolve around them. Transferring the focus of education from teachers and textbooks to children has to do with the advocacy of new education, which is called children-centered education. Thirdly, what is teaching? Is teaching an instrument for achieving grades and further education? The industrial society has brought instrument rationality, and people act with a strong purpose. In the simulation process, teaching is considered a tool for obtaining scores for the education and employment. However, if we understand everything in life as an instrument to achieve another, then we can inevitably deduce a conclusion that our whole life is an instrument and meaningless. Max Weber proposed the distinction between value rationality and instrumental rationality, believing that we should pursue value rationality, pursue the meaning and the value each thing itself, rather than achieving other goals. Just like Dewey said, the educational process has no end beyond itself. It is its own goal. It is its own end. Teaching itself is a process of growth, a process of satisfying curiosity and thirst for knowledge, and a process full of meanings. Part 5. Controversy and reflection on curriculum reform. In 2004, Professor Wang Cesen from Beijing Normal University and Professor Zhong Qique from East China Normal University began an ideological debate around the reform of basic education reform. Professor Wang believes that the concept of transitioning from exam-oriented education to quality education is becoming popular, which is a tendency to underestimate knowledge. He believes that quality education is not in opposition with exam-oriented education. Knowledge learning is the foundation of comprehensive development, and quality education should be based on knowledge learning. Education reform should follow laws of education, respect the tradition formed by principals and teachers for a long time, and avoid disruptive phenomena. Professor Zhong believes that knowledge is actively constructed by learners themselves. Knowledge acquisition has the following characteristics. Firstly, it emphasizes the experimental basis of knowledge. Secondly, emphasizes the process of knowledge construction. Thirdly, emphasizes the collaborative nature of knowledge. He believes learning is the change of behavior. Learning is the formation of meaning. Learning is the dialogue of wisdom. Learning is a cultural practice. Later, some scholars discuss curriculum reform from the perspective of power games. some from the perspective of cultural differences between the East and the West, and some from the perspective of ideal and reality. This debate has lasted for many years and has yet to reach a consensus. In short, the new curriculum reform is a change in curriculum, content, and objectives, a change in teaching and learning behavior, and more importantly, a change in ideology. Curriculum reform is an ideological revolution. China is still on the path of exploration. That's all I share.
Thank you, Bapak Ibu. Saya baru mau bilang nih, kita masih punya waktu 10 menit tuh ya, Bu Rita ya. Saya mulai satu pertanyaan dulu. Tadi yang Bapak yang di belakang dulu ya Bu ya, soalnya dia sudah berdiri dulu sebelum saya. Bapak, pertanyaannya will be in English or Indonesian? Okay, so can you come forward?
Thank you so much. I'm Simon Simon from North Sulawesi. I'm really interested in the discussion, but unfortunately, that's very good actually, but only for primary to secondary. So where is the preschool? Why? Because I concerned, now I just concerned on what we call PAUD in Indonesia, or preschool. So especially for toddler and grandchildren. Yes. I try to focus especially for 2 years, 4 years. So would you please give, maybe you have idea or something that can perform, can be our reform for our curriculum? That's my question. Thank you so much.
Okay, from Sulawesi, so it's about
Thank you for the question. In fact, an important orientation in China's kindergarten, is that we try to avoid the content and subject-centered education in kindergarten. We allocate the activities, games. We educate children when in the activities and games they play and learning. This is our I think this is the orientation.
Oke, gimana Pak? Siapa tadi namanya? Simon Sally. Iya, jadi di tingkat PAUD lebih banyak sebenarnya menghindari terlalu banyak konten. Ya. Baik, kita masih punya waktu sekitar 5 menit lagi. Satu orang penanya tadi sudah.
Saya, ibu-ibu lagi, ibu-ibu.
Oh, mungkin dari situ. Kayaknya itu Pak Bobby ya, Pak Bobby agak nanti habis itu Ibu ini satu lagi bisa. Oke, silakan Pak Bobby.
Thank you. Yes. My question is, like, you have elaborated the complete things about the curriculum reform, and I think this is the same thing happening in Indonesia at the moment. And the thing that I want to know is, where is the English subject? I mean, can you, maybe you have some information about the English subject? Since I'm an English teacher, so I'm curious about the subject in your country. Thank you.
Thank you. In fact, every subject has almost the same orientation, just like this page. We reduce the difficulty. We reduce the content and subject-centered education. We emphasize some activities, some dialogue. We create more opportunities for children to speak, to collaborate, to have some activities and practice. Yeah. Just like many countries worldwide, many countries learn English, but many children, many students are better at reading and writing instead of speaking. Yeah, so we try our best to give students more opportunities to speak louder. Yeah, thank you.
Oke, sudah sedikit. Ya, silakan Ibu satu lagi. Kayak kita masih bisa satu lagi, Bu kita ya. Satu lagi, singkat padat, silakan.
Okay, thank you for the chance, Mr. Lee. I am Mila Rushanika. I am from Jambi Province, and I'm very proud of Bahasa Indonesia teacher. And my question is, I believe that we have two things to manage properly. One is time, because so little of it, and two is knowledge, because so many knowledge around in this era. So can you give us a tips or a tricks how to make a self-improvement, a consistency to keep learning and make an impact for people surrounding? Thank you.
So two things.
Two things that I believe.
Objectives.
Yeah.
Two objectives. The first is
time, because I believe
time limited. Right?
Yeah, and then the second one is knowledge, because we have so many resources in this era, right?
Yes.
And how we as an educator to keep balancing, to keep focus, to make an self-improvement for ourselves, but at the same time we have to make an impact for others.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So how many students in your class?
Yeah, I manage student in my class,
Yeah.
in my own class.
Yeah.
How many? Oh, sorry. I have 20 students in one class, and the other class it's randomly. There is 6 students, 7, and something like that.
6 or 7?
50.
50.
Yeah, 50.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. So it's a question. I think it's a worldwide question. we have to teach so many knowledges in a limited time, right? Yeah. Here's some practice that we experience. In China, we step one in the past, we tried to divide the students into different classes. I mean, some students learn better, and some others learn not so good. So we divide them into different classes and teach them different knowledge with difficulties. Yeah, it's in the past. But now we advocate another kind of organization. We divide different children in groups. For example, 30 students in my class. We divide them into 5 groups. And every group there are 6 children in every group. The 6, maybe 2 of them are very good at learning. Maybe 2 of them are not so good. Yeah, it's a mixed change. Yeah, and we try to in one class, for example, 40 minutes. Teacher just teach in 40 minutes. The time for teaching is just about 10 minutes. And 20 minutes they try to learn themselves. Yeah, under the guide of teachers, we set many questions. The first question, the second question, the third question. And the students follow the questions and learn. They can achieve about 70% of the knowledge. Yeah, 70%. And then, in the next 10 minutes, they discuss. After discussion, they can learn about 90% of the knowledge. And in the last 10 minutes, the teacher will give them some guidance to enhance the knowledge acquisition. Am I clear?
Yeah.
Yeah. So in this kind of teaching. I mean, every student can learn independently and actively. So if in 40 minutes all the time teaching and teaching, so it is impossible for a teacher to focus on every student because they are so different. Right? That's my opinion.
Okay, if you don't mind, I want to make a vlog with you after the event. Thank you.
Baik, thank you Profesor Lee, Bapak Ibu, terima kasih. Saya tahu Bapak Ibu masih ingin berbincang-bincang, tapi kita masih punya beberapa presentasi lagi. Tapi di sini tadi kita sudah highlight beberapa bagian bahwa konten itu juga penting, tetapi praktis dari si studentnya untuk bisa mempraktekkan apa yang sudah diajarkan kita dalam kehidupannya sehari-hari itu justru yang lebih penting lagi. Makanya reformasi kurikulum harusnya mengarah pada bagaimana mata pelajaran yang kita ajarkan itu bisa digunakan di kehidupan sehari-hari. Terima kasih Bapak Ibu, and thank you Profesor Lee for the presentation. Kita akan berpindah ke pembicara selanjutnya. Silakan Bu Pita.
Terima kasih Bu Indri. Baik Bapak Ibu, selamat siang semuanya. Bapak Ibu bisa menyapa dulu dalam bahasa Mandarin? Ikuti saya ya. Lao Shi Hao. Ya, terima kasih. Tepuk tangan untuk kita semua. Bapak dan Ibu sudah belajar ya berarti bahasa Mandarin. Baik Bapak dan Ibu, selanjutnya adalah Profesor Chin Xiaoyan. Beliau adalah profesor dan pembimbing doktoral dari Fakultas Pengajaran Bahasa Mandarin Internasional dan Fakultas Sastra Humaniora Bahasa Mandarin Northeast Normal University, China. Fokus studi beliau adalah pendidikan Tiongkok internasional, peneliti tata bahasa Tiongkok modern, dan beliau adalah anggota Komite Pengarahan Pendidikan Pasca Sarjana, gelar profesional, doktoral